Sanders, John Gibbons and Ste Evans to take a long look back at Liverpool's game against Glasgow Rangers, but much more than that, a big look forward to Sunday, to the game you look out for when the fixture list drops. You don't expect it to be quite like it is, as the manager has discussed today in his press conference. It was about the only interesting thing he said in his press conference, if we're all honest about it. He shut everything down, but we'll come on to talk about that as well with Steve, with Emma, and with John. We've got other bits and pieces as well coming up over the course of today's tour live. We have got Harriet Pryor speaking to Claire McColgan from Culture Liverpool about Liverpool hosting Eurovision in 2022, and John Gibbons speaking to our friend Kelly Forshaw, one of the better living Evertonians, about running the London Marathon for the British Heart Foundation. All of that is to come if you listen to this as a podcast. If it is alive for you, thank you very much for coming and joining us today as we look ahead to this game against Manchester City. Get your comments in. We might go through them as it wears on. But the first thing, John Gibbons, is to talk about Liverpool's performance against Glasgow Rangers. They were, I thought, pretty rubbish, and then really, really, really good. I would like more of pot 2 moving forward, if possible.
Yeah, it was funny, wasn't it? Because sort of the way they set up and how they were playing was so sort of jointly workmanlike. Sorry, that I was a bit worried that we'd sort of reduced us down to their level a little bit. And there's the old Jurgen quote from when he first joined about we'll drag them down to their level and then beat them. I felt like we jumped down with sort of how we, not just how we set up, but how we were going to play. And then something clicked second half, and they looked a different team. I don't know if there was tweaks to the formation or what they were asking them to do or what, but they looked a lot more fluid. I thought the first half, how they were set up and what they were trying to do was just sort of all very basic and alehouse really. Whereas second half, I thought we looked to get Elliott and Carvalho onto the ball more and more intelligent positions. I thought suddenly, what we asking tougher questions, and we just looked like a more quality team in both what we were trying to do and how we were executing it as well. And yeah, it was great fun in the ground. It was great fun to be there as the goals were raining in. I mean, mate, they were kicking towards us second half, so maybe they were just waiting for that. They were like, oh, we'll score all our goals in front of the lads and lasses in red. And if that does the plan, then fair play, because we got loads.
They did indeed get loads, Steve. It's obviously there's 2 quite significant turning points. I think obviously there's the moment Liverpool make it 1-1, and then there's the moment Liverpool make it 2-1, and it's why it is worth discussing the all-round contribution of Roberto Firmino, but also the literal stick the ball into the back of the net contribution of Roberto Firmino. It's a really good ball in from Gomez. It's a pretty good ball in from Shimmerkas. It's just dreadfully defended. They're sort of on a plate for him, but you've still got to tuck it away when it's on a plate. And we've seen throughout his Liverpool career, sometimes Firmino doesn't do that. He does do that today on Wednesday night against Rangers.
Yeah, I thought the second goal was fantastic, especially from Joe Gomez. The ball across the behind the defenders. It was just, you could see it coming from a mile away, but then they still seemed impossible to defend. Really, the ball was that good. But I was very impressed with his first. I think it's underrated. His header for the first, because I think he's very strong, gets himself into a good position. He's kind of got 2 around him, but still manages to get his head and turn it into the Rangers goal. Maybe takes a slight deflection off one of theirs as well, but that was definitely a turning point, because we weren't great first half, as you say, and it kind of, after that the goal went in, we kind of gained the momentum from Rangers. They kind of started to blow a little bit, and obviously then we managed to kick on from there really. But I think it certainly was a pivotal moment, especially to getting back into the game after a pretty poor start yet again really. So the manager will be pleased with that, and then pleased that we managed to kick on again second half, which we haven't done many times this season. We've our crisis management hasn't been great, but I think half time, the manager had his best half time of the season probably, and got us ticking, and obviously the rest was pretty easy.
Pretty easy, Emma, but it was also marked by great finishing, like really, really good finishing. I keep going back to the game we have against Bournemouth, where they score 9, but 3 of them come from set pieces. Another one's an own goal. Another one's a 30-yarder. I'm not against 30-yarders. I'm not against own goals. But the point is that
take one of each at the weekend.
Yeah, I would take one of each at the weekend. But the point is that to see great finishing is actually what does. I couldn't believe. You work for the BBC. I couldn't believe how much Van Bronckhorst had to pay for this. They seem to be flogging him all over the place, whereas there must be part of him saying it doesn't help when they finish like that.
Yeah, I think that was probably the most pleasing thing for me, was that Liverpool, in terms of going forward, just had that clinical, ruthless edge in the second half, which we haven't seen all season. As you said, when they have scored, it hasn't been the types of goals that we've seen them score frequently under Jurgen Klopp. And I think the likes of Roberto Firmino being in good form again, obviously Salah coming on and scoring that really quick hat-trick. He played like he was a bit angry actually that he wasn't starting, and that's what you want, I think, from your front players. And yeah, just to show that type of quality. As Gibbo sort of said before, I think there was a lot of basics being done in the first half, and I can understand that, because when things haven't really gone very well, you think, I'll go back to basics and just kind of nail the basics and go from there. And I think that was what we saw in the second half, was once they'd sort of settled down a little bit and realised, actually, yeah, we can still play football. They played with a bit more freedom and played with a bit more confidence, and then that's when their quality came through and those really good finishes.
When you just talk about them playing with a bit more freedom and the quality of the finishes, but obviously you go 3-1 and well, with the exception of Liverpool this season, you can have a level of confidence that Rangers aren't going to get to and claw the way back into it. And I think that does help them. But you've still got to then go and do it. And I think that's, for me, the main thing about the finishes. And we've all got one eye on the weekend. There's, when they beat Bournemouth 9-0, Salah doesn't even score. For me, this feels like a little bit one of those things where if there is confidence to be taken into the weekend, hitting the postage stamp, hitting the inside of the post, hitting the area where it's so difficult for the goalkeeper. I don't think the goalkeeper covers himself in glory, but when it's so difficult for the goalkeeper, that's a massive positive.
Yeah, it is a massive positive, and especially when your defence is struggling at the moment, which, there's no beating around the bush. Everyone knows that defensively Liverpool are just, they're giving away goals. So when you have world-class players like Salah up front, you need to rely on him really to just make sure that one job is done at the other end of the pitch. So yeah, going into a game like City, I don't think any players, as much as they like to say, we think about it game by game, in the second half of that Rangers game when they were, as you say, kind of, comfortably in the lead, there's no way that they weren't thinking, we need to try and really put down a bit of a statement now before going into the weekend, because everyone was already looking ahead to City and thinking, what can they take from that Rangers performance? And that second half, certainly a lot of positive.
It's probably Ste Elliott's best 45 for Liverpool. I think he put together what we've seen, I think, in patches, going all the way back to the start of last season, where you've seen him have a really good 10, you've seen him have a decent 15. I think he pulls himself out of the doldrums well as a footballer. But I think you've seen it. I think that was the most sort of put together an entire 45 was. As I say, I think they were fatigued. I think the reality of what they were dealing with hit them. I think the idea of this is happening to us in front of our own fans hit them. Don't get me wrong. But you've still got to have that ability to put those teams to the sword. And I think he showed that repeatedly. And I was really pleased he got his goal.
Yeah, very much deserved. I agree with you. I think it was definitely his best 45 he's had for us. I imagine he might have got not a bit of a rocket at half time, but just a bit of, Jürgen pulled him aside and said, listen, you've got so much ability. I want you to be more aggressive with the ball. I want you to believe, be more sort of attacking and trying to go past players, just one little 1-2s around the edge of the box. And I think a lot of that has been down to his position, playing that sort of right side of the centre midfield so far this season. And maybe he's just been concentrating on just getting it and giving it, recovering it, just trying to recycle the ball out to Salah. But the way he kind of hugged the touchline, proper old-fashioned chalk on his boot style winger, and just looked to cut inside. But I thought he was fantastic. I thought Carvalho, again, similarly, I thought he was much better second half. Again, this could be down to them being tired, but certainly Elliott, it's exactly the kind of stuff I want to see from Harvey Elliott. The stuff that he's good at, going past players, little balls around the corner, and just always keep him moving, and always looking at a constant threat around the edge of that box and coming in from the wing. And as you say, deservedly got his goal. I thought he was excellent for that 45.
They find themselves up against that Rangers side. It was interesting to me, John. I know you got to see it in the ground because they cruelly put it on the big screen of the Rangers supporters streaming out. It is worth remarking on it is the biggest ever defeat they've suffered at Ibrox. Again, this is the sort of stuff that Liverpool used to do, and this season has sort of stopped. And I don't mean this in a cruel way. Like, I think it can restart, and I think it will restart. But that idea of, well, no side's ever took a beating as bad as this at this stage of this tournament. This sort of thing's not happened before. And even the fans streaming out to the ground was a bit of a reminder of last season and Old Trafford and all that sort of stuff as well. My point is, you can overstate, maybe as we all did after the Bournemouth 9-0, what this sort of thing does. But I think you can also be in danger of understating it as well. And because we've been burned a few times before, and because it's Manchester City next, we've got to be careful maybe not to understate how this could kickstart certainly some confidence in front of goal.
You'd hope so, yeah. And I think it is a fair point to make that, that's a characteristic of the Liverpool side, that the record breakers, and they've put on some phenomenal scorelines against some good sides. You wouldn't necessarily classify Rangers as that, but then I think they have been, a touch slighted, really, considering that they got to Europa League final last year and they qualified this year by knocking PSV out. And so I think, listen, they're not brilliant, and Manchester City, are going to be a much tougher task. But I think what's Wednesday showed, and what things like Bournemouth showed, and a few other times as well, that when we've got a bit of backwind and things are sort of going for us, we can really turn it on. The worry for this Liverpool team is that, how are they when the chips are down? How are they when things are against them? How are they when, at the weekend when City are going to have some pressure, which they will. No matter how well we play, City are going to have a period when they're on top. How are we going to cope with that? That's what they haven't proved yet this season. What they've done, against Rangers is reiterate what a devastating attacking side we can be, how many quality players we've got, how many goal scorers we've got, and how threatening we can be. But what they need to show next is the resilience, is that when it's tough, how can we start a game and shut it down? How can we shut down space? How can we cope with the fact that a really good team like City are going to have time on the ball, and hurt us in ways that sides like Rangers just can't, and deal with that? That's what you want to see next. That's when we know the real Liverpool are back.
It will be when we know the real Liverpool are back, and we'll see the way in which that goes, Ste, on Sunday. Just one more sort of thing to wrap up this one. I thought that for the first time, I would argue possibly, and since last February, I mean, even when Liverpool were getting really good results and playing well, I felt for the first time, really, it may actually be the League Cup final, Fabinho looked himself. I thought he looked physically where you want him to be, but also he looked like he was passing forwards, and not passing forwards aimlessly, passing forwards with certainty. I was really pleased to see Fabinho's performance. It's one of my big takeaways from the game, really, and that included when it was 1-1, when it was 2-1. I was thinking, you know what, Fabinho's playing well here, and it's nice to see.
Yeah, he grew into the game really well, I thought. He's been a real worry for me this season. He's been one of my, one of our most consistent players over the past 3 or 4 seasons in this Klopp era. When we've been successful, he's been one of the main driving forces behind that. Sometimes unsung, obviously, the likes of Van Dijk and Salah get a lot of plaudits, but I think Fabinho, when he's been playing really well, has been a massive factor in us as being successful. So this season, when he's clearly not really being himself. I think he's looked knackered, if I'm looking honest. I think, and that doesn't help, but the formation set up, he's kind of been isolated a few times, and he looks a bit pissed off with it and fed up with it at times as well. But I think you're right. I think against Rangers, he looked a little bit more like himself. He's fantastic with the ball at his feet. He's really underrated in that area, I think. Not only breaking plays down, but passing on the corners. But
he's been choosing not to do it, Steve. That's one of the things that's been frustrating me, and that's what's been frustrating me. It's not the idea of whether he's been doing it well or doing it badly. It's been that he's not doing it.
Yeah. He really looked like he wanted to be part of the team on Wednesday. For me, I thought he was really looked like he was in a different headspace almost. Really, just by the way he was sort of driving himself forward and not getting too down on himself. Maybe that's the secret to it all. He just needs to start believing himself a bit more and start doing what he's good at, as you're saying. And I think we'll see a lot more of what he's really good at, which what makes him one of the best in the world in that position when he's on form.
2 fullbacks worth note over the course of the game. Emma Gomez, it's a great ball for the Firmino goal to make it 2-1, and he plays a really good one just before there as well to Nunez. That Nunez can't quite get under the spell the way you'd like. Robertson comes on and immediately looks like he makes a massive difference as well, and he's part of things. Gomez first and foremost, though, it was important for him to get a bit of quality right back time under his belt before possibly having to go into the game. Well, definitely having to go into the game against City and play there, you would have expected. And I think he's underrated what he can do going forward. He's just not going to be Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Yeah, I think that's the key. Just firstly on Robertson, I think when he's missing, that's when you actually realise how big of a step up Robertson probably is to Costas. Because look, it's Costas is a good player, and when he's on it, he can be near to that level of Robertson, but consistently Robertson is just for me a level above. And I think now that Liverpool have missed him, you've really seen that. Gomez, as you say, I think it was really important for him to come on, and actually I think he's really struggled of late defensively. One of several players who's struggled defensively, but it was good to see him come on and have a few nice touches and impact the game going forward, as you say, because that's something which obviously without Trent, any team in the world is going to miss someone like Trent in their team going forward, and just in terms of the way that the team's set up. So to have have Joe Gomez sort of show that he is capable of adding at least some of those elements is only a good thing. I'd like to see him get on the ball a little bit more when he's in that position on Sunday. I know it's going to be difficult, especially playing against a team like City and Liverpool. I don't think Liverpool will have the ball as often as they probably would have liked. A mixture of things. I think City, they seem to dominate teams even more now, but also just that slight lack of confidence in the Liverpool team. I just think City might take the ball a little bit more. So I think when Gomez does have it, that transition between those sort of wide fullback areas, I think is going to be really important.
I think it's going to be important because one of the things that we've done well against City, John, is actually shift the ball from one side of the pitch to the other, and we've lost a piece of that armoury. I think it's fair to say with Trent up against City. But one of the things I think you saw from Gomez, and as he settled as the game wore on more and more, as Liverpool grew more confident, was he was quite happy being quite vertical with it, and that's something that Trent does really well. And Trent is a genius. Some of how Trent goes vertical with it, the ball to Jota, for instance, for the Arsenal League Cup second goal last season, is an incredible thing to do. But there is also something else to point out, that you can go vertical with it in a bit of an uncomplicated way if need be. And I think simplifying things in that position for Gomez, I think really helps him, because he is technically a really good footballer. He's one of the best centre-halves I've ever seen technically when he's playing well, when he's on it. It's not too much to translate bits of that to right back. And he passes forward with aplomb when he's on it at centre-half, I think.
It does, yeah. And what I think is important for this game as well is that we're not throwing him cold. I think when Joe Gomez struggles is that suddenly when Trent's fit and he's got to come in for the odd game here and there, and maybe he's been doing a bit of centre-half and you're like, oh, you go right back here to give Trent a rest. And he's almost, sometimes you're watching him and trying to almost learn how to play the position again. And so what am I sort of meant to be doing here? And, there's no instinct there.
It's a hard position to play because you've got, basically, you're in the middle of the pitch. You've got 180 degrees in front of you to some degree. As soon as you're on a touchline, they are markedly different positions. You've cut half the touchline cuts half your options out.
And especially when, it's not just, you getting thrown in cold, but for your teammates as well. They're like, I'm used to this guy who, as you say, he gets the ball and does 60-yard switches at him. But instead I've sort of got a show for it or whatever. And so I think it's important for us and it's good for him going into this weekend that he has had a bit of a run. Like you both have said, I thought he played well against Rangers. I think he shows, it's his pace as much as the quality of delivery that I really like. The fact that he can get up the pitch there and hurt the opposition. I agree with you, Neil. I think technically he's good. And I think when he's in a bit of a rhythm there and he can pick his passes and he knows, he knows his options, he knows, who's down the line for him, who he can sort of cut inside for. And he is calm on the ball, is what you'd say as well. And so, I'm not too worried about him at the weekend, really. I'd love to have Trent there because, like you say, Neil, it's another thing that can hurt Manchester City. And you sort of, you wish you'd be going in with all the weapons at your disposal. But from a defensive point of view and from a point of view of getting us going, I think you'll be fine.
It is TAW Live. I am Neil Atkinson. I'm joined by Ste Evans, by John Gibbons and by Emma Sanders, and they will be back, if you're listening to this as a podcast, in a few minutes after Harry Pryor has spoken to Claire McColgan from Culture Liverpool about Eurovision, and John Gibbons has spoken to Kelly Forshaw about running the London Marathon for the British Heart Foundation. So we'll go over and we will listen to them for a few minutes, and we'll be back to talk about the game against Manchester City as a podcast. But if this is TAW Live for you through any one of our variety of channels on this Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock, we've flitted immediately into Manchester City chat, 1840. Andy, I'm saying for that one, you might decide a second or two earlier, but you get the prerogative. He's gone 39, ladies and gentlemen. He's gone 39. He's -1 me.
I want to do a break just for the live chat and talk about one of the comments.
Which one of the comments do you want to do?
You're able to go up a bit?
I can select them, yeah.
It just made me laugh a bit. It was Tom here who's put, I can't see it now. There we are.
It's for everyone there. Go on.
Rangers are the championship side. They literally ran out of legs. Salah will never get an easy hat-trick. And we went one down to these lads. Trying to stay positive here, but City will kill us for pace. And what I would say, Tom, is you're not trying very hard.
Tom failed there, hasn't he? Failed.
Tom, if that isn't trying to stay positive, imagine what we'd be dealing with if he wasn't.
It just really made me smile. Like, fair play, do you know what I mean?
Tom, I've got to be honest with you, it's a long time from now until kickoff. You're gonna have to find something else. You're gonna have to find more ways to do it. He is trying to stay positive, though. We're all trying to stay positive, Steve. And we'll bring a couple more comments in as we begin to build up to City, because it is always, firstly, it's always a great game of football. One of the games of football I've most enjoyed in the last 5 years is the Community Shield against Manchester City. And one of the reasons why was because I didn't feel like everything in my whole existence rode on it. And I was able to therefore sort of take succor from the quality of both sides. I don't just mean this from a Liverpool point of view. You know, they are some phenomenal footballers. And the good thing about the Charity Shield was it had everything as far as it's the nearest thing I got to a test cricket match really in football, where there's tons of quality everywhere. I could appreciate it from both sides, but finally the team I wanted to win won. And that felt great as well. And I'm not saying it'll be like that on Sunday, because it won't quite be. But the one saving grace for me psychologically, unlike for poor Tom there on Sunday, is that it doesn't feel like a league title's riding on it, because we're nowhere near the league title. So at least that pressure's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take a performance like that from Liverpool again. We haven't seen it since, really. But you know, we do go into this one massive underdogs for a change. I suppose it's been not been like that for the last 4 or 5 seasons. We've got in there on pretty much level playing fields, and it's been nip and suck at the top of the league. So I suppose from that sense, the pressure's off us. So we can go into it after a decent result midweek, albeit against, as Tom said, about absolute garbage, the Scottish side. But we can go into that with a bit of pressure off and just go in and do as well as we can. I've even before the game midweek, I've always had a feeling in my bones that I fancy just that we'll do quite well against City. I think it's one of them matches that we'll raise ourselves for. As long as we don't give them any early Christmas gifts like we have been doing recently with other teams. Giving it soft goals, I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to match them really. So, I think if you look at the first half against Arsenal, I thought we were great for that sort of 35, 40 minutes as well. So if we can just kind of find that sort of shape and tempo of play again, listen, City are a fantastic side and they can punish you at any given moment. But if we can just find that sort of form that we had in that first 35 against Arsenal, then I think we'll be okay and we'll give them a good game.
Michael Bennett's been on Gordon's lad, John. Need the atmosphere to be spot on Sunday. We're massively the underdogs in this game based on form season so far. Normally equates to a lively one. It feels a bit like the Chelsea rivalry this game. For me, the atmosphere is really interesting, and it's why we can't give gifts away, because I think if we don't, then I think it'll be reminiscent of, he mentions there Chelsea, but the game that's been in my head is the 04-05 game against Arsenal beneath his first season when Alonso scores, where everything positive that happened got an enormous cheer from a Liverpool crowd. And you've got to be careful there. People sometimes go, have we sunk that low? It's not so much that, it's more the idea that these lads, they do need our help. And while I think they're showing that they're benefiting from our help, I hope they're going to get tons of it on Sunday.
Yeah, and I really like that Arsenal comparison, Neil, because we beat them on quality that day. And that's what we did. They were a really good Arsenal side. They came, I think, top of the league, or certainly higher than us. And we scored 2 fantastic goals to win the game. I mean, they scored a great goal as well.
Tremendous goal, yeah.
But I think, it is... that's what they can do. So it's not a case of, backs against the wall, try and nick it from a corner. Again, I'd take it. But, that's what we're talking here. We're talking, big intensity. We're talking about, getting more from our lads and less from theirs. And that's what atmosphere is all about for me. It's not about, persuading your mate to bring a drum or a bin from behind the house and smacking it all game, or drones from the crowd that don't change with what's going on in the pitch. The Anfield atmosphere is at its best when we're alive being, and that's what you want it to be on Sunday. You want it to be something that is influencing the game, that's changing by what is going on in the pitch, and is ultimately making our players play better and their players play worse. And City have felt that, and when City have felt it, they've struggled to live with it. So let's remember that. Let's remember those games. You mentioned to me before upstairs the 3-0 where again they come on paper and the table says a much better side, but we managed to do enough collectively, us and them on the pitch, to sort of rattle them and to create a situation where suddenly they're 3-0 down and they're punch drunk and they don't know what's happened. And so, there's a way of being an underdog stylishly, and that's what I think we'll want to be, because that's what it suits the players as well. You want a game where we're coming out pairing about Thiago and not Kevin De Bruyne. You want a game where we're coming out talking about Mo Salah and what a wonderful forward he is and how he's shown he's one of the best players in the world, rather than Haaland, and we can create that situation together.
It is a bit of a time warp, this one, all of a sudden. I've mentioned that game there. There's other games that do sort of spring to mind, going back at the last 20 years or so. John mentions previous games against Manchester City. The time warp is back to the spring of 2018 when City were on for a 100-point season. Liverpool are going to go and get to the Champions League final that season, but there's 2 games at Anfield. One's the 4-3, this one's the 3-0, where atmosphere plays its part, but also the idea of Liverpool get 1 and then Liverpool get 2 quick plays its part. And we're very concerned about us conceding first. I'll come back on to that. There's lots of comments about that. I'm concerned about us conceding first, but it is possible, I mean, it's theoretically possible that we could score first. And if we score first, theoretically, I don't want to overstate it, it has happened in the dim and distant past. Were we to score first, I think that opens up what happens for the 5 minutes after we score first. And that's maybe when there could be a bit of hay for Liverpool to make.
Yeah, I had a mini panic then that you were going to make me answer questions on things that happened 20 years ago, because I can't remember things that happened last week. But I fully agree with that. I think what we have seen in these big sort of rivalry type games, the reference before about it kind of feeling like the Liverpool Chelsea. I think the Liverpool City, absolutely, I would agree with that. It's that type of game, isn't it? And I think momentum is such a big thing in those games, and obviously the crowd, as you say, Gibbo, like it's all about that sort of emotion and feeling alive in the Anfield crowd. And I think that comes from those exciting bursts that you get from Liverpool. And I do think they are very unique. I don't think there's many teams out there in the world actually who have the ability to destroy a team in 10 minutes. And I think Liverpool have that, and they've shown that consistently under Jurgen Klopp. So if they can get 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of that real alive burst, and the Anfield crowd really gets it, and they get 2 quick goals, then who's to say that they can't go on and win it? I think the challenge there is if they were to take an early lead and they were to go 1 or 2-0 up, can they maintain that intensity? Can they maintain that sort of free-flowing football and not think, oh God, we're in the lead, let's sit back and make sure we don't concede? You almost want them to not be thinking too much about the fact that they have to defend really well, because I think when you think too hard about something, you almost go the other way, and you lose focus on what you're trying to do. And when there's already so much pressure on doing the basics well defensively, it's almost like you kind of want to take a bit of distraction away from that. And I think if they can sort of ride that emotion and have these periods of pressure, because like you say, Gibber, I think absolutely City are going to have periods of pressure, and as long as Liverpool have theirs as well, and make the most of them, then I think they can challenge.
There's a nice City fan in the comments who's chatting about the game in general. Seems perfectly pleasant, and he's just sort of pointing out that they're playing at Anfield. There's no way Guardiola's taking it lightly. City are going to be up for this. I think this is really important for Guardiola. He'll have it marked, and he's not going to change. This is our toughest Premier League away game of the season. I've been talking a bit on shows about the idea we need to remember we are the hunted. And just because we feel as though we're weakened doesn't mean other teams don't. You got to see Arteta's reaction from the 3-2 against us after Liverpool basically give his team 3 gifts. That's not to say Arsenal didn't play well in general and aren't a good side, but we hand them 3 goals over the course of that game. His reaction is what will be in Guardiola's head. The idea of a win at Anfield in front of a crowd will be absolutely enormous for him and his players, and they will not be taking it lightly in the slightest.
No, there's just no way Pep will ever let it get that far. We know how, I don't want to say obsessed with us, but we've been their closest rival for the past 5 years, and he will make sure that they don't come to taking this game lightly at all, really. It'd be nice if they did, because it might give us a slight advantage. You never know what 1 or 2 of their players might be thinking come match day, but I'm sure the manager will be drumming into them from these beware the wounded animal, so to speak. Liverpool are definitely not to be taken lightly, and I think he's right, really, because I think we will up our game for this match. I really expect us to sort of try and shake off the poor performances of recent weeks, and really put on try and give Man City and really fancy us to do well. So I'm not expecting us to come out and sort of smash City 3 or 4-0, but I certainly think that we're going to be going to surprise a few. I think on Sunday. I think we'll definitely match them, and hopefully we can squeeze 3 points out of it.
Steve, the question then becomes, what team do you think he's picking? I'm intrigued. I think for me, I think there's a system chat in there as well. I don't think it's just an idea of a selection chat. I expect, allowing for the fact that there's no injury news that we don't know about, Alisson in goal, Gomez starts, and then across the back four, it's then Konate, Van Dijk, and I think he will start Robertson. Do you think he'll start Robertson?
I hope so, yeah. I think he looked really sharp when he came on against Rangers Wednesday, as previously said. So hopefully, yeah, Robertson gets the game for me.
Everyone think he's going to start Robertson?
Yep.
Okay, there's consensus around Robertson then. That's the back four. Then I think up front, I think Salah obviously definitely starts in that. I think Fabinho and Thiago will both start.
Yeah.
General agreement, John, Emma?
Agreed, yeah.
Okay, so we're getting somewhere. And then I think Firmino and Jota will both start. Do we both all think Firmino and Jota start?
I think Firmino, definitely. I'm not sure whether we'll go Nunes or Jota, because I can see him maybe just throwing in a bit of a spanner and putting Nunes out wide. But I think I'll go Jota.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think I'll pick Jota, and I think I'll pick Salah, and it's the centre forward position. Listen, Firmino is more informed, plays so well, but I don't know. Part of me thinks he might just go with Nunes in this one and 9, just for that bit of a wild card option. I think having someone up there who City haven't played against before, who apart from sort of 20 minutes in that Community Shield, know a bit less, and someone who's able to throw something at them that they maybe don't necessarily like or expect, must be a temptation for the manager. Listen, you can unleash him off the bench, can't you? But if it goes badly, the game might be over by then. And so is that sort of what you want to do? I think he'll go 3, and I think he'll go Firmino because he's a more conservative manager than you think. But I don't know. I'd be tempted to not pick Firmino and go and pick Nunes.
There's also that element of, like, if you pick Firmino, then you know what you're getting in terms of the press. And when the press hasn't been working quite as well this season, defensively, it hasn't been working quite as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Klopp says, look, Firmino is the absolute engine of that press, and we know what he's going to give the team. So that's why I think he'll go with him personally.
What do you think he'll do, Steve?
I think he starts Nunes myself. I think he mentioned today about getting Mo Salah closer to the goal, and these runs from the inside, obviously coming in from the inside of the box, and that's where he's best. So I think he'll want to sort of harness that sort of suggesting more, really, and so I think he'll probably go with a 3 up front again. I think he'll pick. I think it'd be nice to see a little curveball, maybe Nunes on the left wing. I'm not too sure we haven't seen him there yet, and what sort of chaos that would cause. It's going to be a tough one. I think it's literally a flip of a coin when he goes with. Really, it'd be a shame for Nunes not to play, because I think even though he's he's not doing everything brilliant all the time, he's certainly gathering momentum with his goals and scoring most games now. So it would be a shame for him not to play, but we all saw the chaos he caused when he came off the bench against Man City in the Charity Shield. So he might want to just try that again, really. So, yeah, too close to call for me. I think I really don't know.
But you think you'll go 4-3-3?
Yes, I think so.
So what do you think his midfield 3 will be?
I think it'll be Henderson, Thiago, Fabinho.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
So I think Elliott's got more of a shout at this than we're at. I think he might pick Elliott off the basis of the fact that Elliott lets him flip between the systems. So we can go Elliott wide right, move Salah central, put Firmino in behind, and have Jota or Nunez if he wants to be risky on the left. I think he'll go with Jota, and then it's 4-2-4 or 4-4-2 for a period, and then he can say to Elliott, right, we're now doing 15 minutes where you come back into centre mid. Salah, you go out wide. Firmino, you go back through the middle, and Jota and Salah, you go narrow, and we'll do that for a period. And I wondered if he wants the tactical flexibility in game.
Yeah.
And but I think he can only have that if he picks Elliott. I don't think there's anyone else he can pick in centre mid where he can have that. But Elliott has a very good 45 there, and then he also then has both Nunez and Henderson as subs, which I think allow him to go in a couple of directions as well. But I could be wrong, could be completely wrong. But that's what I think he might.
I almost see that, but like from the reverse, I think when you've got Joe Gomez playing at right back, I would argue he'll probably start with Henderson just to help solidify it for the first 45, and then he's got that weapon of bringing on Harvey and changing things around.
My only thing on that though as well is that he's lost his triangle. If he wants to revert back even to last season, he's lost his triangle of Salah, Trent and Henderson anyway, because he can't pick Trent. So does he therefore think, well, if that can't work, do I want to do something else a little bit different? I think he has got loads of I think he's got. I think they're easier to predict. And that's a weird thing, because people often say, oh, Guardiola overthinks things. I think they're easier to predict than we are, both in every single way. like you can't name. I think we can have with certainty 8 of the Liverpool players, but I don't think you can say any more. And also, I don't think that tells you what system it is, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, of the 5 subs who came on, I've just started 4 of them. Do you know what I mean? And so, but then there's who of the team who started. And we're getting to Rangers definitely isn't playing. I think you could only pick Carvalho, who sort of you'd be shocked if you threw him in for this one. I mean, the rest of them, you either can make an argument or, in your case with Harvey Elliott, just have. And so I think, it does make us a little bit more unpredictable. Obviously, the formation, we're all saying we think you'll go 4-3-3, but, it wouldn't shock you to see something else. Or like you've just said, Neil, something that can go between the two. So it does make us a little bit more unpredictable. And also the ability to change in the game is important as well. But you need to stay in it and you need to be in the game first. As I said, my worry about holding Nunes back is sometimes a little bit of a, well, if you 3-1 down, what are you holding him back for? So I don't know, we'll see. I think he's got good options. I think, we saw, the quality off the bench last time and saw the quality that we have, but they've got so much as well. And that's what makes it a bit tricky, and that's what makes it tough, because you can't get it wrong. Do you know what I mean? The manager, it's not one of those games where you can if it's not working at half time or on 60, you can change it. Yeah. They can blow us away in that time. And that's where the pressure comes from. And that's where I think he will have his tendency to go a little bit more conservative and maybe go with, the likes of maybe Elliott and Nunes off the bench, should or would we need them.
I think that's one thing that goes in our favour. For probably the first time since I can remember, that probably Pep Guardiola hasn't got a clue how we're going to line up. Yeah. I think in the past, if you look at our squad, he always knows we're going to play Henderson, Thiago, Fabinho to fit. It's always been Mane, Salah, and Firmino, or maybe Jota if fit as well. So I think for the first time for ages, that Pep must be sitting there going, I haven't got a clue how they're going to set up here, and that can only work in our favour, surely.
Okay, I'm going to ask everyone for predictions in a second or two before then. The following week, we will be at Nottingham Forest. Sorry, we won't be at Nottingham Forest. We will be at Keynes Brewery Pub in the Keynes Brewery Village for the Nottingham Forest game. We're going to do post-match pint there afterwards in front of an audience. And if people want to watch it, we'll be watching it in there for the 12:30 kickoff. And afterwards, we'll be downstairs in post-match pint. We'll do that in front of an audience, try and get some audience participation. It's an experiment. We're going to see if it works. It might not do. We're just trying something new. And then we'll have a bit of an Anfield Wrap live show that won't be recorded afterwards, but post-match pint will. So if you want to come and join us, we will be in the Keynes Brewery Pub from 12 o'clock next Saturday against Nottingham Forest. In fact, would you take a draw?
Yeah, I think I would.
You taking a draw?
100% take a draw.
Steve, taking a draw?
Reluctantly, yes.
I've asked everyone this. I'm not. And the reason why I'm not is I feel it's almost a bit like no matter what happens, I feel like everything's different on Monday, no matter what. Like the serious business starts again. In a really weird way, this feels like a cup final, I think, because we know, like we win 3-0. We're not going to all be coming out going, we're going to win the league. We just know we've had 3 points towards the top 4 push.
I don't think it'll be a draw, by the way.
No, but
I think we'll beat them.
But the way I feel about it is that genuinely Monday mornings are, if we win, I'm going to have a massive Sunday night, and then we wake up Monday morning and the serious business starts, because we've got to get something against West Ham, we've got to get something against Forest, we've got to get something against Ajax, we've got to get something against Leeds. You've got to keep the season alive. And if we get beat, you've got to get something against West Ham, you've got to get something against, you know what I mean? Like in seasons gone by, would you take it to the draw questions massively influenced by the league picture.
But we need to beat them to get the points up and stuff like that.
Yeah. Or we take the draw because we're currently too clear of them or something like that. Or, you know what I mean? For me, it's one more point if you take the draw in a top 4 push that's going to go on all the way realistically into the spring. That's where we want it to be. The only reason why I'd say yes to the would you take a draw comments is if you think you're going to get whacked. I don't want to get whacked, but a Liverpool performance where they're banging it and it finishes 3-2 to City, but we all get to wake up on Monday morning and say, you know what, that was a proper game of football. I'm all right with that. So I'm quite, this is the manager in the press conference. The one interesting thing I thought he said was the game to the left and the game to the right doesn't matter for this game. And that's a really interesting way to look at it. And that's sort of where I am as well. So everyone has taken the draw. Everyone I've asked on different Anfield Wrap shows, everyone's taken the draw all the way through. I've been thinking, I wouldn't. And the reason why is, let's just throw the dice, play a game of footy. I'm really looking forward to it in a weird way, because I do. The only thing that can say, I just don't want to get whacked.
Yeah.
And Heaton's not taking a draw either in the private chat, his right hand. I just think, taking a draw is thinking that you just don't want the feeling of getting beat by them walking out the ground. Well, guess what? You're going to get beat by them at Anfield at some point anyway. So let's just get out of the way if that's going to happen. But if not, I just think imagine the alternative where we come out it's the best Sunday night of your life, and then no matter what happens, it's serious business Monday morning, dead sober, just like really serious, straight down the microphone for us and for them, back to training. That's my attitude.
I'm loving this positivity.
Well, it's not really positivity. Like I am saying, we could get whacked. I mean, I want to be clear.
Yeah, I mean, like to be pessimistic, that was sort of why I said I'd take a draw, because I personally can't see anything other than a 2-3-0, 4-0 win to City. So yeah, that's why I'd take the draw.
Okay, that's more than allowed. It is more than allowed. Steve, give me a prediction. You're shaking your head.
I think we'll win. I've got a feeling. I've had a feeling all week that we're going to win, so I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool.
John, what about this? I tell you what, 4-0. I'm going to say 4-0, whether you said it or not. 4-0, says Emma, to City. Steve, 3-1 to the Reds. Me, I'm just in it for the party. What's your prediction?
2-2.
2-2. So John gets the draw that he would have taken before. I think Guardiola and Klopp would take a draw on 70. If it's 2-2, I think they'll take a draw on 70, the two of them, which is interesting. And I might then as well. Ask me. I'll be in the ground, excited for it. It's great to watch good footballers. Liverpool's good footballers need to be great. That's the way in which this works. If Liverpool's good footballers are great, any result is possible. See you later.